coming at a time when I know everyone is fighting for democracy every moment. So, but thank you for remembering that we also need to fight for our planet and take care of that. So that's what we're here for today. I'm Nancy Hazard. How are you hearing? Is that okay? Oh, and we could turn the closed captions on. Sure, why don't you do that? We'll experiment with how that looks. Okay, so now you should be able to read what I'm saying. The top there is kind of
wow, very good.
pretty amazing, huh? So I'm Nancy Hazard with Greenfield, and I'm your MC tonight. And I'm going to say a few thank yous. I'm going to say a few words about Greenfield and our theme for this year. And then I'm going to turn the mic over to Dorothea, who's going to introduce Christine Hatch, who's our speaker tonight. And then there'll be Q&A at the end. So how many of you, is this your first Greenfield event? Any other? Oh, great, fabulous. Okay. And I won't feel quite so redundant when I say who we are. So first, logistics. The bathrooms are you go out the way you came in, go down the stairs. There is also a bathroom over here on the left. So a few thank yous. I want to thank the Second Congregational Church for hosting us in this really beautiful space. And I particularly want to thank the people at Greenfield that have been working on this series of talks. So Dorothy Sotiros, who's here, and Mary Westerveld, who's not here tonight, and Elizabeth Erickson, who was at that table, but she's somewhere else. And also I want to thank the Green people who are helping with logistics tonight. So that's Edie Heinen was at the door, Becca King was at the registration desk there, and Peg Hall is here and there. Oh, there she is. Okay, so thank you for all those people. I also want to thank Jaden James, who's with GCTV, who's in the back here, who is recording this talk, and so it will be posted on our website, so you can check in with it later, and you can also send it to your friends. Okay, so Greenfield, we're an all-volunteer group that we founded almost 20 years ago, and our goal was to make Greenfield more sustainable and resilient. And sustainability is defined as a place where social justice, environmental equality, and economic vitality overlap, and all of that would be considered. As such, we work on many issues. Most recently, we've been working on restoring our climate, biodiversity, housing, youth, and some what we call collective learning. So please, at the end, visit our information table over here, and also please look at our website, which is beautiful. It's been updated quite recently. How many of you heard the Dee Pershaw speak about a month ago on the soil? A few of you, okay. Fabulous. So we had a snowstorm, so we did it on Zoom. Oh, and by the way, her talk is on our website now, so you can go backwards and see that. So as many of you know, our theme is water and our climate. And this topic, our choice of that topic was driven by the fact that although in the Northeast, we don't experience persistent drought, where we have not yet dealt with that, scientists say that worldwide, all the continents are drying. So in preparing for this series, we also learned that shockingly that we have lost 50% of our vegetation. How many knew that? One, okay. Two. I'm sorry you know that, but now we all know that. And vegetation is what drives the water cycle. So we've also learned some good news from Australian climate scientist Walter Yennig. He says that by increasing vegetation by 4%, we could significantly stabilize our climate. So I feel like that gives me some hope anyway, and that there's a lot we can do and make a difference. So for those of you who did not hear our first speaker, Dee Pershaw, she worked with Walter Yennig and And last month, she shared the importance of building a soil sponge to support vegetation and the water cycle. Tonight, we're going to hear about keeping water in the landscape, and the final speaker will bring what we have learned into action. So, Dorothea, please come and introduce Christine.
Hi. I'm happy to introduce Dr. Christine Hatch. She's a hydrogeologist. She studies and teaches about the intersection of water resources, ecology, and climate change at UMass. Her work focuses on how water quality and water quantity affect ecosystems. And she has a goal of teaching people how to maintain and protect access to safe water. So this evening, Dr. Hatch is going to explore what we can learn from beavers. How do beavers contribute to their community as keystone species? What beaver engineering practices make good, safe, fish passable dams? And how beavers show us how to be good neighbors. They don't take everything, they share with others, and they leave the world better than they found it. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, I have to do something.
So this is you're going to get lots of pictures and lots of stories because I like to do both of those things, and by the end of it, you'll have a good sense of some of the importance of beavers and what we can learn from them. And so I was thinking about this talk as a little bit of a conversation with beavers, and I had all these great questions that I wanted to ask them. And so I'll ask some of the questions as we're going along here, and we'll get some knowledge from the beavers. So this is actually a beaver pond. I don't know if you can tell if it's a beaver pond. There's actually 2 dams in this picture and 1 lodge. Who knows the difference between a dam and a lodge? It's okay if you don't. Okay, so good. We think so. We'll get there. So the lodge is where the beaver lives, and the dam holds back the water. They're not always, in fact, they're almost never in exactly the same place, but they're nearby. So this is taken from the air, and you can see my ski tracks down there. And we'll come back to this spot in a little bit, but I took this one recently in a conservation area in Amherst. Go ahead. So as an educator, I spend a lot of time with students, and I have a stream table that I use for various age students to do different types of thinking about how water moves through the landscape. And a lot of that is centered around fluviogeomorphology and how rivers move in space. And so you can see here on my stream table I have my toy beavers. So I also brought them for you to play with. So yeah, I know the scale's kind of an issue. I get that. So I have some beavers, and then I also have some. These are like like if you had a large root ball that you were going to install in your stream bank to reinforce that stream bank. And then these beavers, when they're building a dam, it turns out that this just a little piece of fabric works really well to act like the mud that they would seal in the dam with. And so that's what you'll see the students working with there. So these are from some elementary school kids, and these are some hands-on learning experiences that we do with them. Go ahead. I also have done some student research projects with my college students where they were doing some scenarios and coming up with experiments to test various hypotheses. And so this one, the student had this cool idea of, if the beavers add more complexity to the landscape, what does that do to the water flow through the landscape? And so she had these ponds on the side, and she put some dye in there to see how much that would change with the beaver dam structure that she built there. Next. And then I do a lot of these rivers and roads trainings with MassDOT, and these are again intended to look at fluviogeomorphology, but to have practitioners who are working in rivers really think about how rivers work and what rivers need. And you might guess that transportation workers have a bone to pick with beavers for some reason, because they often end up, we have a lot of rivers in this state and we have a lot of roads in this state, and where they intersect, beavers say, nah, you got that all wrong, you left a leak in it, I can fix that for you. And so they go and they clog it up, and then trouble ensues. But we'll get back to that. But some of the things that we play with on the stream table, you know, are real life, in practice things that these practitioners do all the time. And we've been doing these trainings all over the state, and so we bring the stream table out there, we go out into the stream itself, but we also have a big classroom portion, and they really like it. And oh, and I don't know if you noticed this one guy in one of these trainings, look at that tattoo, he's got like this giant beaver tattoo. It was so awesome. I was like, wait, please let me take a picture of that. All right, next. All right, so this one is an example. This is kind of what got me onto the beaver train, or into my foray into becoming a beaver believer. There was a road washout in Belchertown in 2021 on East Street, and it was right down by the Mass Wildlife headquarters down there by the Swift River, and this is an image of the surface topography, Massachusetts, coming out of the Quabbin. Is anybody familiar with LiDAR? Do you know what that is? It's a topographic map. So it's flown from an airplane, and then the laser bounces off the ground surface, and so you can get a really detailed picture of the topography. But for somebody who comes from out west, it's really nice because you can see through the trees to the entire landscape underneath. And so what you can see here in the box is where we're going to go. That's part of Herman Covey Wildlife Management Area, where beavers are just kind of allowed to be beavers. And it turns out on this day, one beaver dam failed, one did not fail. And when I first went there to see this road washout, you know, somebody was saying, the beavers, the beavers, the beavers. And I saw this dam right there next to the road that was perfectly intact. And I thought, I don't know, was it really the beavers? So I started to look into this. So go ahead and we'll go for our little example. So the purple area there is some of the first pond. This is the lower pond. This is the dam that did not break, actually. That whole, well, no, is this all of it? This is all of it. Sorry, this is even bigger. So there's this one didn't break. This one isn't currently a pond, but has been in the past, and this is the one that broke up here. So there were kind of a chain of 3 of these. And then the river goes down there to the Swift, and this is the culvert that washed out right there. And there's this dam, you can see it, it's pretty high. That's a beaver dam. It did not wash out. That one stayed totally intact. Go ahead. So here's the road that got washed out there. And you can see that, can you see the dam up there? Oh yeah, the dam's right here. There's the dam. It's still there, right after the road gets washed out. Okay, good. And so what happened here is this culvert was, you know, it's one of these 2-footers. It was way too small, even though it's a pretty small stream, that culvert was way too small. Really, really long. And so it didn't take much. It just took some extra sticks and things to clog it up, and then the water backed up. It started to swirl around. It flowed over the road, and then eventually that swirling just carved away at the roadbed, and it failed. And then this poor gentleman who lives down there no longer had a driveway. Instead, he had a river, and it went around his house and took that out and took some street, you know, several houses downstream, which is that picture down below. Go ahead. And so here's the pond, still there. This is the pond that didn't fail. And then if you go, and this is in the wildlife management area, so if you keep going upstream, yep, there's the old beaver dam still intact right here. There's the failed culvert, and what do you know? Like 5 days, not even 5 days after that event and the washout, the beavers are like, I don't know, this seems dicey. We're gonna build another one. We're just gonna like reinforce, double down. And so they were already building another dam like 5 days later. Go ahead. So what does a beaver dam look like? What's it made out of? So this is the one that failed. So you can see the edge of the vegetation there is what drained out catastrophically. And so it's, you know, I think with some of these, that particular year, it was like 300% of normal precipitation in July. It was yet another big storm on top of big storms. And the beavers are good engineers, but maybe there's a limit. Or maybe they had not been maintaining that particular dam at that time, and they had moved on to another section. Something happened, and so this one washed out, and then 17 acres of water just moved on downstream. But then, go ahead. So this is where it blew out. It blew through that section there. And what's kind of cool is that it really opens up the lid to what was in this pond that we could see. So you can see there that there were a bunch of drowned trees. You can see a lot of the sticks sticking out there. You can see that there's a big dead tree that might be handy for some large bird to build a nest in, out of the range of other pesky critters that might want to bother them in their nest. So having just water around is a really nice feature. You can also see lots of goopy muck. So all of that organic material that was down in the bottom of that beaver dam accumulates over time. It's storing carbon, it's storing organics, it's processing all kinds of metals or anything else that's in the water itself. It actually is processing that out and absorbing a lot of that and storing it in the sediment over time. There's microbes and other microorganisms that are happily living in that soil. And you can see all of that kind of exposed once that starts to wash out. Go ahead. So then it washes downstream, and you can see there's a high water mark. So this part here is where there was that meadow in between the two ponds that are existing ponds. At times this has also been a pond, but when that flood wave came through there, all this meadow just slowed down the flood wave. So, on the one hand, yeah, there was a beaver dam that burst, but when you get a little ways downstream, this section here that had been a beaver pond that had become this big flat meadow was actually just slowing down that flood wave as it was coming downstream. Go ahead. And then this is kind of where it almost stops. So this is a little sandbar, and this is evidence of that water slowing down and depositing the sediment and slowing down as it moves through that meadow. Go ahead. Continues on downstream, and this is the very top end of the lower pond. Go ahead. And then you get down here. So the beaver dams, this series of beaver infrastructure along the way there, in my opinion, was really slowing down this flood wave and spreading it out. And so not everybody agrees that beavers in the landscape are a good thing, but I think in this case it actually was mitigating some of the impacts of that climate change induced flood, of that super intense precipitation. The beaver dam upstream failed, but then it starts to slow down and dissipate as it comes downstream. Not much you can do about the culvert. That was too small, except for make it bigger, which to their credit, Belchertown put in a 9-footer and significantly upsized it in this location. So some of the things we can learn, let's have some conversations with these beavers and see what we learn. So let's start with ecology. Go ahead. This is my neighbor is a wonderful wildlife photographer, so he took a few of these photographs. Mark Lidwell. Go ahead. Hopefully you can read some of that, but if not, this is a resource that's available that I can point you to. But these are some of the things, some of the functions that wetlands do. And basically a beaver pond, when beavers dam up an area and make it wet and squishy and full of organic material, they're creating a wetland behind it. And so, as I mentioned before, the storm flow and storm energy can really be dissipated. All that energy can be spread out throughout the landscape. It provides critical habitat for all sorts of creatures, not just birds of prey, but all kinds of insects and other creatures that like to be in that wet environment, and then that feeds all the way up the food chain to the birds and the other critters that are around. The sediments that are captured in that landscape start to filter the water, and water is stored both on the landscape, in the landscape surface, as well as in those soils, as you've been learning about. And the more organic material that's in a soil, the more water it will hold, and the longer it can hold on to that water. And then bacteria in that soil can break down some of the pollutants, and the metals and other contaminants tend to glom onto the organic material more than other places. And so it really acts like this giant filter. And so the more the more you spread out the water on the landscape with more organic material in there, you're creating this giant sponge that has a long time, because it's slow, it just sits there in a big puddle. That interaction between the water and the soil allows that filtration process to occur, which takes some time. And then that retained water that's in the soil and in that whole wetland slowly is released back. So, and some of that water will also recharge the groundwater as it's sitting on top of the landscape there. And so it has the water purification function, it has the flood resilience function. As far as the climate goes, water acts like a mitigating factor for temperature, and so it can either cool the landscape in the summertime, or it can insulate the landscape in the wintertime a little bit. And then it promotes the biodiversity, and then being around that, those natural spaces give us an opportunity for recreation and my favorite, exploration and science and learning stuff about that landscape. Go ahead. So the question I would ask of a beaver in terms of ecology is, who would you invite to your pond and why? And here's a group of my students at a beaver pond up there. And this is actually where that failure occurred, but it's on the part of the pond where the beavers are now actively building again. So not the part that blew out, but a little around the corner. And so beavers don't want to invite predators right into the pond, but they don't mind if fish come, and they don't mind if bugs come, and they don't mind if other birds come and join them at the pond. They also invite muskrats to share the pond in the wintertime, and they can build their lodges as well, and some other critters. Go ahead. And so here's some birds of prey. This is the same location where the drone photo was taken. My friend sent me this picture and I said, "Where is that? I have to go." so there's a huge, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the giant beaver lodge that's buried in the snow there? It's pretty big. It's back behind the big tree, and then there's about, 8 or 10 of these really large nests. So somebody's really enjoying living there. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that.
It's a pretty incredible place. But you'd never be able to see it. You wouldn't be able to access that if that were open water, which the beavers would really prefer. Thank you very much. If you can if their lodge is safe and sound out there in the water. Go ahead. And so then this is where the beaver dam is. So you can see there's the tree, and here's the dam up there, and then the water's coming over this little dam, and there's one opening here. And even despite the fact that ice was probably a couple feet thick at this point, we've had such cold weather. That might be an entrance, so they might be able to get in and out from way down here. Certainly the entrance that they had up by the lodge was closed up by this time. Go ahead. Yeah, so there you can see. Here's this dam. That's the main dam, holding that up. That's the entrance down there. And here's a second one further downstream. So often they'll build this kind of terraced infrastructure, which is kind of cool. Maybe they'll start out with the little one and then move upstream as they're working on it. Go ahead. So this is how there's the downstream dam, how that's built. And I'll just I think I'll point out this again later, but there's kind of a flowing area here, and then there's a flowing area on the side over there. So it's kind of leaky, but there it is, yeah.
Now, how many beavers might there be building on?
It's an interesting question, because particularly that one that failed, that might have been multiple generations of beavers, like many, many generations, because that one was a pond for 40 years. You can look back in the aerial photos, and it goes way back. And so they'll just keep working on multiple generations in one area if they stick around. They don't like to have too many in one small area. So, at some point they kick the kids out and they say, off you go find your own place to build a lodge. But they could have, in a pond like that, you might have a bunch of different lodges kind of spread around the pond. And you could have, for a pond that size, you could have maybe 4 or 5 different families living. And then, at some point you say, oh, there's not enough room for all of us, off you go, send them off to go find a new spot. Here's another example. So this one is the lodge, the biggest lodge, right up there where my students were sitting. And that one is a really good stash for the winter. So here's a piece of advice from a beaver. You should save. You could start saving right now. And so what they do is they gather up all the sticks before winter's coming. They gather up all the sticks that they're going to use for their food, and they eat the bark off of some of those trees that they particularly like, the black birch and the maples and some of the willows. And they stack them up on top of the beaver lodge so that when it gets snowy, they can still get to them. And then the ones that they've eaten the bark off, they just drop them off to the side. There they are, off to the side. And then let's see, where are the other two? The bottom one there is down in Belchertown. You can see the snowy one from where all those nests were. And there's still some sticks up there. They're still able to get to some of those sticks. And then they also were gnawing on other big logs that were nearby. So that's one piece of advice. This is another piece of advice that a beaver might have for you, is to build a big, safe home. And this is huge. This is the one. This is the lodge from that pond that was drained. So they're no longer occupying it. And it was so cool. You'll get a little sense, but you won't get the whole picture of it because I couldn't get a really good image of it. But there are all these little chambers in there. It's almost like an apartment complex inside that whole mound, and at all these different levels, there's little holes where they go and tuck in. So if you go to the next slide and click the arrow, you should see. Here's the pond, and then you should descend down into that beaver lodge. See if it works.
Where's my cursor? Let me see if I can figure it out. Like, where's the cursor?
Where did it go?
Not
Must
showing
be
up.
upper left?
Now.
No?
Now something else happened. You're gonna have to come
All
over
right,
to
let's
the
see.
computer. What did I do?
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
You should. Oh, there we go.
Why can't I see the cursor? That's so weird.
Okay, try to click it. Let's see if that works.
Did that work?
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
So in we go.
Oh, cool. Whoa.
Wow. So you can see how it's just built up of sticks and mud, and they just keep piling it on and piling it on. And you can see where the students are just above their heads is what would have been the top of the water there when that was all full of water.
Wow.
Yeah, and now that's all covered with moss, and it's all starting to grow back into the earth. So much organic material was deposited there, and it's just there storing carbon. Yeah.
Yeah, did you see something about the sticks that no longer have bark are
Yeah.
discarded?
Uh-huh.
And why is that?
Because they eat the bark.
Okay, that's
That's their food. Yep.
Okay, and then now the stick doesn't have value, or can it be used for the lodge, or?
Yeah, then they can build with it. So
Okay.
after they use it
Yeah.
as food, they'll probably throw it in the dam or whatever.
Good idea.
Yeah. Reuse.
Yeah.
It's upcycling. That's right. Yeah.
Sort of store their food in the water, and they can get to it.
They probably have some that they store in the water too.
But there's all the snow that lands on top.
Right.
It's harder to get to it.
Yeah, and or they have like a slide, and I have at the very end. I think I have a picture of one of those slides when it's when there's part of it that's not frozen, and they can kind of maintain a bit. There was one place where I found a lovely beaver dam to skate on and was skating around, but they had this like long, those indoor swimming pools, the like infinity pools. It was almost like they had one of those. They could just go back right in front of it. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, go one more time. There we go. Yeah, so this is one of the ones that was just phenomenal to skate on. So hiding from predators is a good idea. A beaver is on land is a little bit clumsy and not too fast, and a really big, tasty, fat, juicy piece of meat, and so they really want to stay where they can move quickly, which is in the water, to be away from predators. Kind of hide back there a little bit. And also surrounded by water, so the more water is around, they're faster in water, so they can hide there. Yeah, that's another place to hide.
What caused that pattern?
Oh, I have no idea. There's just a weird pattern that happens in the ice. It's just there were a whole bunch of them.
Well, maybe a beaver didn't come up.
You know, at first I thought it was something, but they were all over the place. It just happened to be the way it froze. Yeah.
Who would like to eat a beaver?
Coyote would eat a beaver. A wolf, if we had him, would eat a beaver. Probably a large bird of prey might eat a. Well, I don't know if a large bird of prey would eat a beaver.
Fisher cat?
Certainly wild cats. A fisher cat would definitely eat a beaver. Yeah. Yeah, Jordan.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
And then in terms of what beavers eat,
Uh-huh.
there was some image of a beaver taking a fish from some guy who was fishing out of a bucket or something, but they don't eat fish.
I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, they're like vegetarian? or-
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
How do they get enough food during the winter?
They store up, so they have a pile of bark, and they may have a different metabolism in the winter where it slows down, but they pile up sticks and work through them. All right, so engineering and infrastructure. This is a fun topic because I thought, I like looking at how they build things and seeing how come their dams, for the most part, aren't failing and our dams seem to be failing. So one of the things that they do a lot of is maintenance. So every night they're out there fixing up the dam, and if you make a leak in it or if you make a sound like a leak, they'll be in there trying to fix it up. So regular maintenance is definitely one of their engineering tricks that they spend a lot of time on. Go ahead. So this one is kind of interesting. This one, this was the dam that they built right after the failure behind the dam that didn't fail. So this is like just, reinforcement, reassurance. Just in case that one might fail, we're going to make another one to be sure. And you'll notice that it has a curvature to it. Go ahead, hit. And so that curvature is actually acting to direct the water in a particular direction so that if you had a really strong flow right in the middle of that river, it wouldn't all hit one part of the dam. It actually would spread out and dissipate the energy there. So that curvature is important. Go ahead. And then this one, hit it one more time. It's got a wedge shape. So this is actually the dam that failed. And again, it probably was just like way too much water, way too fast all at once to keep track of. But you can see there's a wedge shape to that whole dam front where it's really strong. That's a really strong structural shape. And the whole dam front has that shape to it, which again, probably was built up over 50 years of beaver engineering there at that site. They also, go ahead, took advantage of a natural anchor point. And so there was that glacial erratic, that big stone sitting there, and they thought, that'll make a nice anchor. We could start building. And maybe they started building it right there next to that and then built out from there. Go ahead. Here's another example of a natural anchor point. So I'm standing on a bridge that's currently a road, but the road didn't always used to be there. Before, it used to be where the stone walls are. But the beaver said, hey, that's a nice narrow little spot. I can fix that up for you. And so they built this dam that's probably about 8 feet high now. Right there, and then behind it, go ahead, is this lovely pond full of black birch that they like to eat, so they've been snacking on that. And this one is convex in the opposite direction, but it also serves a similar purpose, which is to, hit it one more time, to send the energy outward and dissipate that. And so this one will actually spread that water out across the meadow in a broader sense. Instead of ponding it up all in one place and concentrating it, it's actually going to spread it out around. Yeah, this one's got that same curvature to it, and this one, go ahead, is leaky, as I mentioned before. And so the leaks can let the pressure of the water go, and send it down the way that they want it to, but they're not sending it right over the top where it would erode down the dam. They send it around the sides.
So we'll have a question about the fish, because you had.
Oh yeah, that's coming. Give me 2 seconds.
Yep.
A couple more clips. We'll get to the fish. So after the flood, this was another question I had for the beavers. What do you do when it floods? Well, first we get out and survey the damage. So this is that dam right next to me there, and the students are all down below it making some measurements, but it looks to be in pretty good shape. So the first thing they do, they're right out there checking it out. What happened? And then they immediately started to build something else. did I have I had something about fish. Might be the next one.
It was too bad.
Yeah, it'll be there eventually. Oh, this is, yeah, I think it comes here because this is about the terraces. I just love this spot. I call this is my Beaver Shangri-La because there's like, I don't know if you can see them. There's like 4 different terraces here. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. They just go back into the woods and they keep having all these layers to it. Hit the button one more time. All right, here we go. So by having these terraces and by having the dams be leaky, it does a few things. So fish can jump when the migratory fish can jump and they can move upstream, but they need to rest in between. And so by having these terraces, it does a few things. It allows the fish to rest and have a place that they can go through, but it also limits the exposure of any one of these structures. So if one of these were to blow out, well, there's another one right downstream. So it kind of dissipates the energy needed in between there. And then you could also kind of, terraform and sculpt the waterways along the channel or whatever you're doing. Yeah.
So, how aware do you think the beavers are of these consequences? Something it's easy to fall into speaking as if the beaver do this because it'll help the fish or something. But
No, I actually think it's probably it's sort of selfish. They do it they do it so that the pond, mostly they do it to engineer the water so that the water is intersecting the plants that they're interested in, so that you get ponded water right next to those tasty black birches, and then you can knock one of those down and eat the bark and then push the log over to add to the dam. It just happens that incidentally in the process of doing that, they end up enhancing the local environment in various ways. And even if they abandon a spot, so even where that dam failed and then that fills in and becomes a big meadow, that's now a meadow with tons of organic soil that's going to be really fertile for things that want to grow there. And it'll be an early successional meadow for a while and create this carved out ecosystem in the middle of what otherwise would have been just a block of forest for some period of time and allow those other ecosystems to flourish. And so, no, you're probably right. They probably do it for their own selfish reasons to get to the wood that they want to eat, but incidentally they improve a bunch of things along the way and make space for lots of other critters along the way.
Yeah, I'm curious about this leaking, allowing fish through, and yet when they find a leak, they want to patch it up right away. So how does that happen?
Yeah, they're genetically conditioned to, when they hear the sound of running water, to engineer and to go and to build things and to patch it up. But when they build them, they don't seal it completely 100% because the more they would seal, it's flowing water, and so it'll find a way to go over. And so I think they think about, well, I imagine that they think about, where would they want to direct the water to go, because they're very much about sending the water in a direction that benefits them in some way or that doesn't destroy the thing that they're building. And so if what they're trying to do is raise the water level, once they've got the water level to the height that they want it, and the pond has reached the dimensions that they were aiming for, then they would say, all right, now I can have a relief valve over here and I'll send the water over there. But it's strategic. It's not, they never, like we tend to, if we put a dam in a river, we'll put a notch right in the middle of it and we'll send the water right over the top. Well, they never do that, not ever. It always goes like around the side, or it sort of like cascades down along an edge somewhere. It's in a low energy spot where they put that overflow. And so from an engineering perspective, they're not picking the highest energy place to send the water over and sort of inviting trouble if that water level rises. It's kind of fascinating.
So I still have a fish question.
Yeah.
So how high can fish jump? So you showed some that were 5 and 8 feet tall. Can they get across that?
I doubt it. Depends on the fish, but no, I don't think they can jump that high.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So then, could a fish pass that down? I don't know. I mean, there've been some studies where they've measured fish populations and tagged the fish and seen whether or not the fish make it up, and a much larger proportion of fish make it past a beaver dam than ever make it past a human dam, even if we have a ladder on it. and it's a lot higher than you think. And I don't know if they can make it through, like, at the front of a beaver dam is kind of a messy thing. And, there's all these sticks going over it, and there may be even little pockets in the dam face that I don't really think about looking for, but they might be enough of a puddle for a fish to go, rest for a second, and then make the next jump. And maybe I didn't even see it. Maybe I just saw that 8-foot wall, but really, there were little places in there too. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm finding that I'm really curious about how they accomplish this. Like, is it a very individual thing, and one beaver goes out there and is busy, or are they collaborating, and is there like a social order that facilitates this? Do we know?
I don't know the answer to that. I think they function in fairly small family groups. They don't do the engineering in a big group, but they do collaborate over time more than together at the same time. And there might be a couple. I mean, they're very kind of nuclear family-ish, so there might be a couple, and they might have a couple of little ones. I don't know that the little ones are doing much engineering, but so you might have a pair, but when I've ever seen them out, I just see one.
Mm-hmm. I've seen two together, working together, but I've never seen more. But when you really look at what they're doing, it's kind of amazing that just one or two beavers can do that.
Yeah, no, and I think it's longitudinal though. There could be many beavers over time that move in, and then then there's all the predators that have 4 wheels and predators that have 4 legs and that take them out, and then some other beaver comes along and says, "Oh, that looks like a great house. I'll go ahead and build there." And to that end, when we want beavers to come into an ecosystem, we can put in things that we call beaver dam analogs. And we're pretty lousy engineers, and so we'll take a big staked, trunk of a tree, and we'll drive it straight into the stream bed and say, "How about here, beavers?" And I'll be like, "No, that looks terrible. I'll fix that for you." And sometimes they'll come and come to the place that we want them to. So that main dam just goes around. It's just such a pretty place. Yeah, keep going. There's kind of a wide shot. Isn't it a great place? I just thought it was so cool.
What's the name of the pond again?
So that one is in, that one doesn't even have a name that I know about. That one's in the Quabbin watershed. It's up on Route 202 south of Main Street. So kind of Shutesbury, I think. And I'm probably not supposed to skate on it. Shh. So being a good neighbor, so we were just talking about this. I think a lot of what they do for their own selfish reasons, but actually it turns out to really enhance the ecosystem around them by the time they're through with it. What else do I have in there? Let's ask our beaver friends some more questions. Oh, there was a really great class that I was participating with at Smith College that was called Sharing Space, about engineering things with beavers, and there was an article, a really funny article in the New York Times. This was just after COVID, about these New Yorkers who were moving upstate, and they were feeling all grumpy about the natural world. And there was one guy in particular who ran a PR firm and was complaining about the beavers flooding his yard. And so the whole class made postcards to send to him. And some of them were sort of grumpy and mad, but this was my postcard that I sent to him about all the great things about beavers. And this beaver, so this got me into thinking about humans versus beavers. Believe it or not, this is on the Danube in Vienna, and you can see the whole river is lined with riprap. And here's this unlikely beaver just hanging out. And so the beavers here are fiber or Castor canadensis, and the beavers in Europe are Castor fiber. But they're basically the same critter, and you can see that one managed to find one tiny little stick, but apparently they live in a tributary nearby. But just social as could be. I think there's another. Oh yeah. So here's a stream table time lapse of humans versus beaver infrastructure. Sorry, my tripod was moving. And so you can see I made some infrastructure there, some roads. Culvert's too small. It's going to blow out. I've armored the stream bank very heavily there with rocks. The river's going to say, "Yeah, forget you. I'm going to erode that anyways." It's going to blow out that other culvert that I made that's too small. Yep, there it goes, gone. So I just keep creating more problems the more rock I put in there, which we tend to do. We do this. So then I say, well, what about if I put beavers in instead? So this is with the fabric that I was playing with. I said, what happens to the beaver infrastructure? Does it fare any better than some of this hard infrastructure that we tend to put in there? And you can see it's holding back a lot of water. There's a lot more water on the surface of the landscape. And as the erosion happens downstream, you can see the stream moving around quite a lot. But it sure isn't moving up where those dams are, is it? It just slows everything down, spreads it out. And I think, oh yeah, this is that beaver pond up on the Quabbin, and I will leave you maybe with this last little skating video, and then you can, if there are any more questions, I'll entertain more questions. Go ahead. Can you get that? Yeah, there we go. So there's some big snags here where big birds live. And for some reason, I can't quite figure out why, they did put in one of these structures. I don't know if you've heard of a beaver diversion structure, or a beaver deceiver is a brand name that the guy out of Vermont makes. But for some reason, they put one of these things in here, and what it does is it maintains a fixed water level, and then there's a drain pipe that goes down below the dam. So the beavers can't quite figure out how to cover that up. Maybe they will eventually. Now, when I come around the corner to where that lodge is, you'll get one quick look at the beaver in that long swimming pool. Lodge is hiding there somewhere. But it's a pretty extensive, fun pond. Oh yeah, see the beaver, there's the whole swimming pool there in front of the lodge. There's one quick look, there it is. Yep, he's gone.
Don't get too close, fall in.
Yeah.
You're hoping he's gonna come up again.
Yeah, I was hoping, but he didn't come back.
Stand there for a few hours.
And it must be an awful sound to hear the skates on the ice.
Oh, right.
They're under the water.
So when they hear humans, do they just go under to avoid, or?
Mostly they avoid them. If you hang out long enough, they'll come out and slap the tail and say, "Go away."
Yeah.
Have you gotten a video of that?
Yes, and I couldn't find it. I was gonna put one in my presentation, but I couldn't. I have some beaver slap videos that are fun.
Aww.
And usually you can see the camera jump because it always makes me jump.
And so they enter their lodge underwater. There's underwater, and then there's dry. They can go up.
Mhm.
And dry, so it's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yes.
So are beavers an indicator of good quality water?
They certainly help create good quality water because a lot of the ecosystem behind the dam will help filter water.
But I mean, I would assume they won't build unless it's of good quality, or is that not true? Like they can handle pollution?
I don't know the answer to that. I think probably they would prefer it if the water were cleaner because it certainly would help them do what they do. But you know, that beaver was sitting there in the Danube, which is in the middle of the city and full of riprap, so I doubt that water was super clean.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Doctor, wonderfully informative presentation, thank you. I had a question regarding sharing space
Mm-hmm.
and possibly conserving forest ecology. If you had beavers on your property, take it down like hundreds of trees. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations that are environmentally friendly or beaver friendly to mitigate or deter them?
So in terms of the water level, I don't think it showed up in that. I forgot to include a picture of what those deceivers look like. But the idea, if it's at a crossing of some sort, or if for whatever reason you want to keep the pond level at a certain level so that isn't like washing out your railroad tracks, or if it isn't flooding the road, or if it isn't blocking the culvert, in order to maintain the water level, the basic idea is if you have a pond and the dam is up here at the front, you put an inlet back here and then a pipe that goes down below and out, And so from over here, you control what the input level is, and so what the maximum height that water can reach is. And then you put, you know, mesh over it or something so they can't get in there and mess with it. And then it drains out the bottom. So they could keep building up this dam wall, but the water level won't rise above whatever you set. That's to deal with the water issue. If you happen to be planting tasty willows, that's just a salad bar. And they can really mow those down in a hurry. And it's particularly in the landscaping forestry industry where we're planting seedlings of trees that are you know, if it's something that they like to eat. I think they do sometimes put things around them. I don't know how environmentally friendly they are.
Yeah, I saw that at Papoose Lake
Okay.
in Heath, that there's this little peninsula, it's very beautiful, and then there's a lodge over there. I named that area Beaver Point.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a beautiful white birch. Is that one of the foods they like to eat?
Oh, yep, they would eat that.
So it has a little fencing around it,
Okay.
and it's been there for years.
Okay, so
I
then that
think
would be
maybe-
effective.
And it just looked like very benign, little like metal, you know, deterrent or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things like that they could do. And in Massachusetts, you can't move a beaver legally. You can get a permit to trap one, but then you're supposed to kill it. And I think part of it, Mass Wildlife was counting for a long time and doing population surveys and found that the population has recovered quite significantly and they're very happy and thriving. And let's just not talk about how many there are because it might make some people upset that there are quite so many of them. So it's just been sort of quietly celebrated that there are quite so many of them back on the landscape. And they're moving across the state. They're not all the way back in the like Plymouth Cape area. They're not quite there yet, but they're very close. And obviously they need to be back in that area. There's a lot of Beaver Dam Road and Beaver Pond this and Beaver something that, and they were there and they'll be back. They're not far now. They're every year they get a little bit closer. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you about the trees.
But maybe those fencing things.
But maybe the fencing things,
that
yeah.
metal-
Hundreds of trees, it's kind of
It'd be a lot of
a
work.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and yeah.
Your statement about beavers and like their proliferation makes me wonder, how do beavers get from do beavers migrate from point A to point B? Do they go between sites, or is it just a proliferation amongst a particular site and location? I mean, we're in a rural area, so how do they get from point A to point B, or do they?
They go over land, so they can traverse over land, and they will. When mom kicks you out, you go hunting for a new place to be, and so they'll look for a waterway, or they'll first they'll probably go upstream or downstream and look for some suitable habitat, and if they don't find one, they might go over, try the next watershed or the next little catchment or something.
Like, what kind of mileage are you talking about? Is it like a couple of miles, a long distance?
I don't know how far a beaver could travel. Probably they could go a couple miles. I mean, they're big.
How much do they weigh? How big can they get?
50, 60 pounds?
Yeah, I think they're the largest. Are they rodents or no?
Are they what?
Are they considered rodents?
Mm-hmm.
They're the largest rodent, I believe, in North America.
I think so, yeah.
And then the capybara is the south.
Yeah.
They only are active in streams that are not gonna go dry in July and August, right?
That's true, yeah. Although some streams that get pretty close to going dry, as long as they're, they'll hold some water up there. So the stream where that failure occurred is barely a trickle in the summer, but they sure hold a lot of water up in those upper meadows.
I ask because where we live at the end of the road, there's forest all around us, but in several different small streams that come together in those woods. But by August, they're almost always dry, and I've not seen any evidence of beaver there over the 30 years we've been walking in those woods. So I'm supposing that the beavers are finding more reliable water.
Well, it's the water and the trees, so the food supply is important, depending on what type of trees are growing there. And that's another thing that happens is those early successional meadows, one of the first trees that come in are the white birches, which they think are really tasty. And so there's sort of a cycle there.
If you get too close to a beaver, what do they do? I mean, I know they slap their tail, but will they attack?
I suppose they could, if they got angry enough. They're not very aggressive. They don't really want to, but they could do some damage. They've got claws and, as you know, big teeth that have iron in them, so they're pretty strong.
Oh, they have iron.
Yeah, that's why they're orange.
Wow.
I heard that, when I was talking to somebody about this talk, they said, oh, I've heard that sometimes a different species of animal will actually go into the beaver lodge and share that with them in the wintertime. Have you ever heard of that?
I know that the muskrats, I think, will share some things with them. I don't know if they actually cohabitate within the lodge. I thought they had their own lodges, but they'll share the pond and sort of tolerate them being around.
Curious about that. Any other questions?
I just was going to share that I had an experience of being at Laurel Lake.
Mhm.
And then when you leave Laurel Lake, there's a place where you can kind of pull off your car down, and there's a hard top there, like maybe it's a driveway or something. And you can walk very quietly down to the edge of the kind of back part of Laurel Lake. And that's where I had the joy of watching a little beaver cruising around. Because I was just like quiet on the asphalt and really close, and it was pretty great.
Yeah.
And there's,
yeah.
I think there's beaver dams and stuff up away from the beach part of Laurel Lake. Yeah, I guess I've seen.
Yeah, and if you just sit, you know, particularly around dusk, they'll come out and have a tour around.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks again for having me.
That was fabulous, and I know you have some toys over here.
Yeah. Oh, and I have some beaver chewed sticks if you want.
A beaver
Oh,
chew
yeah,
sticks
cool.
and some
Oh, yeah.
this and that kind of thing. So thank you for all of that. I could listen to you all forever. Great stories. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you all everyone for coming and for please join me again in thanking her. So before you leave, I also want to invite you to our next talk. If you please mark your calendars for the 19th of March. A woman by the name of Kate Cholakis, who's a landscape designer and educator at the Conway School. She's going to come and talk about all the things that we've learned in the last two talks, and then bring that to your home or your community and see, we'll talk about what we can do, taking all of that into our minds. And also, please, there's an evaluation form on your seat, so please fill that in before you leave.
Nancy, also there's a donation jar here if anybody would like to donate to Greenfield so that we can pay the bill to the church.
There you go, donations, always
Yes.
welcome, always welcome. And on the evaluation form, there's two sides. There's one about evaluating what around Christine's talk tonight, but the other side is about, we're interested in knowing what you want to learn about. So please tell us what your interests are. There's sort of a list of possibilities, but we're really looking for things that are just coming up for you. What would you like maybe next year for a theme or a person, or maybe you know somebody that you would really like to hear speak, and maybe we can bring them here and that type of thing. So thank you again for coming, and thank you again, Christine, for that fabulous talk. And please come up and talk with Christine and play with her toys that she brought.